Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Is It Kino? I am MUMKEY Jones.
Oh, hi, MUMKEY. This is
God damn it. I was just about to say, if either one of us try to pull off a fucking rickshaw, hinky-dink, rumply-dumptious, shitty fucking Tommy Wiseau impression, then I'm going to kill myself.
You're tearing me apart, MUMKEY.
You immediately jump into it. Disgusting. So every fucking YouTube reviewer thinks they have to do it. What's his name? The guy who tried to rewrite Batman versus Superman, and everybody made fun of him.
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
Chris Stuckman tried to do it. Sounded like shit.
Tell that to Zod Snap Neck, MUMKEY.
Yeah, Ralph the Movie Maker tried to do it. Sounded like shit. Angry Joe tried to do it. Sounded like fucking awful garbage. Why do these people think that they can do it? James Franco barely pulled it off, and he's a professional actor. What in the fuck? Folks,
anyway,
we're talking about
how's your sex life?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off the show right now. Now I wish you guys really did vote me off. Is it Kino? Because I don't even want to be here anymore.
Yeah,
guys, we watched a little movie I like to call The Disaster Artist.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know what that is, E-Rich, please briefly explain what this movie is.
So, The Disaster Artist is a movie about a book about a movie, kind of. So there was a movie that came out in the I guess it'd be early 2000s, actually.
2003.
Is it the late 90s?
It came out in 2003.
Okay, 2003. And it's called The Room, and it's made by this probably insane Eastern European dude named Tommy Wiseau. He came to Hollywood with a lot of dreams and aspirations of being an actor, but he has no skill whatsoever to speak of. But he does have a lot of passion and a lot of courage. You could call it. It might be stupid courage, but it is courage nonetheless. And so he decided he was going to make his own movie. We have no idea how he got the money to make a movie because it's incredibly expensive. He does stupid shit like buy his own cameras, buy his own lighting, buy his own sound equipment and all that. And he made this really shitty movie that played in one theater. And it's been kind of a cult following ever since then. And his partner on this movie, a man by the name of Greg Sestero, he starred in the movie. He was a best friend of Tommy for the longest time. And he wrote a book all about the making of this movie that kind of details how crazy fucking this guy is. And how he was kind of a low-rent actor who wasn't really getting any work, and he just got along with this guy because they kind of admire James Dean and all these other things. But okay, so anyway, James Franco and his brother, I guess, Dave Franco, loved to watch this The Room movie, so they decided they were going to make the movie adaptation of the book called The Disaster Artist, and here we have The Disaster Artist.
Let me just say, E-Rich, and this is a phrase that we use quite often on Is It Kino, but this movie was my Star Wars for this year. Ever since I read The Disaster Artist, I've been just waiting on foot and knee, if that's a phrase, which it isn't, for a movie adaptation because I love the story. I think the book was beautifully written. It was very funny and very mesmerizing in a psychological thriller kind of way with just how crazy Tommy Wiseau is. Then the movie gets announced, and it's being directed, and it's going to star Mr. James Franco, an actor that I've looked up to and really enjoyed ever since I saw Spider-Man when I was like 6 years old.
You don't love him from Fly Boys?
Have not seen Fly Boys.
I haven't.
So
either.
I've spent I think the movie was announced like 2 years ago, and I've spent the last 2 years just reading every piece of news about it. Every time a different actor gets cast in the role, I'm all over that shit, reading the news for it. So needless to say, I've been more excited about this movie than maybe any other movie ever, except for possibly Avengers Age of Ultron. And much like with Avengers Age of Ultron, you loved it. I hyped myself up. I hyped myself up so much that the only way the movie could live up to my expectations would be if it was like a flawless masterpiece. And let me just say, Rich, The Disaster Artist here did not live up to those expectations.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it's kind of a shame. the way I see this movie.
Go ahead. I got a whole spiel, but you go ahead with your initial thoughts.
The way I see this movie, it's a very good take on the book. Having read the book, I didn't really feel like I needed to see this movie. Because, like, especially the audiobook of the book is so fucking great. And you talk about people doing impressions of Tommy Wiseau, but Greg Sestero does the best impression of Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, he does. And he does it throughout the whole book.
Yes, because he actually knows what Tommy is and what he sounds like. But, the movie is a very fine adaptation of that. For people who haven't read the book, for people who just kind of know of The Room, or maybe have seen it once or twice. Like, I had a good time watching this movie. I don't think it deserves all of the accolades it gets. It does I will give the movie this. It does a decent job of balancing the dramatic elements of it with the comedy, but the comedy tends to take over more so than not, and they tend to maybe miss a lot of the dramatic beats they could have gotten out of it, because... But I should say, though, they do capture some of that at times, and I want to reward them for doing that, because that's a hard balance to walk. But go ahead and lay out your.
So I went and saw this movie with Asperger and Sheepover, and as I was walking out of the theater, the biggest question on my mind was, who was this movie for? Who is the audience for this? Because you got two groups. You got big fans of The Room, and you got people who've never seen it.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a huge fan. I've seen The Room dozens of times. I've showed it to as many friends as possible. I read The Disaster Artist. I listened to most of the audiobook after I read it, just because I wanted to hear Greg Sestero do the Tommy Wiseau impression.
Yeah.
I've been doing research into this shit for many, many years. So then when this movie comes out, and it's just a watered-down version of the book, and I know people always say stuff like, oh, the Harry Potter movie, it's not as good as the book. That's different. This is an autobiographical tale. So when you change things, you're pretty much rewriting history in a way. But you got to do that for a movie like this. This is less of a biopic and more of a fairy tale reimagining of this actual thing that happened. But the movie is very funny. But as a fan of The Room, somebody who has listened to every podcast ever recorded about the movie, somebody, you've seen the CinemaSins video about it, you've seen the Honest trailer for it, you've been hearing people shit on this movie for years. So then in the film, The Disaster Artist, when half of the comedy is Seth Rogen just stealing the jokes that all of these podcasts and YouTube videos have already made, and that's the joke. They go, why is he fucking her belly button, guys? Well, why are you doing this obvious dumb thing? The thing is, it's funny, and Seth Rogen's doing a good job delivering it. But as a fan, I've already heard all of these criticisms and obvious jokes and things. So the second half of the movie, when they're making The Room, I almost didn't get anything out of it. Because I've already been exposed to everything, especially after reading the book. And if anything, I was thoroughly disappointed that so many hilarious scenes that could have easily been filmed, so many hilarious scenes from the book, they didn't do anything with. I've been waiting for years to see that 9/11 scene up on the big screen when it's the 1-year anniversary of 9/11 and Tommy makes the entire crew of the film have a full minute of silence, and they keep fucking laughing, and he starts it over, and they stand there for over half an hour so that he can get his moment of silence, because fuck that bastard Osama bin Laden. Why? Why was that not in this movie? Instead, it was just like the super obvious surface level jokes that I heard on fucking CinemaSins 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I talked about the balance this movie has to strike between drama and comedy. It has to strike another balance too, though. It has to strike a balance between serving those Room fans who know every line of the movie and can quote it backwards and forwards, and wants to see the Disaster Artist basically faithfully recreated on screen. But it's also got to serve people who have no fucking idea what The Room is, and it is going to retread so many of the jokes that you've heard before and so many of the points you've heard before. And like,
yeah, you're right, E-Rich, and that was my initial question: was who is the movie for? Because as somebody who knows all this information, I was sort of I thought it was like a wet noodle. Is that a phrase? I'm just making up words at this point.
Wet blanket, possibly.
It's a wet blanket. Mm-hmm. Somebody who doesn't know what any of this shit is. First of all, why would they walk into the theater? Maybe because it got a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe, but two. Do they understand what the hell's going on? If they know nothing about The Room, are they just perplexed the entire time? Because the movie is not that straightforward with what's going on. When they get into the parts where they're making the movie, the audience shouldn't feel as confused as the actual people on the film set. Like, I feel like we should be a little bit more in on the joke of Tommy's crazy. None of this is supposed to make sense. But I feel like the movie didn't do a good job of setting up for an unknown audience, an unaware audience member of just how bizarre and crazy the situation was.
And that's something so while I was watching the movie, like, I was having a perfectly fine time. Like, as someone who watches The Room and, like, understands why it's funny and why this whole thing would be hilarious in the first place, I was appreciating it for what it was doing. However, while I was watching it, I was just thinking, I don't know if anyone who doesn't understand what The Room is, I don't know what they would think of this movie, because it so hangs on people knowing the common things about The Room and what makes people laugh and what makes people just confused and all that stuff.
The final 10 minutes of the film before the credits is just, and this is a technical marvel, and I'm very impressed with the amount of work and skill they put into this.
Yeah.
They just recreated scenes from The Room, and then they play side by side the actual scene with the recreated scene. Like I said, a technical, it's impressive on that level. But even as a fan of The Room, I was thinking, why did you do that? What? Is this supposed to be funny? I'd rather just watch the actual scene. Why did you put all that work in for no reason? It seems like... I don't know what it seems like. Why did they do that?
I think it's akin to... So, have you ever seen movie nerds go up to each other and start quoting something? Just the entire fucking thing?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think that's what it is. I mean, basically, they have all of this money. They're making the story of this cast shooting the movie, so they just figured, we'll just make the movie again. And it would not surprise me if they went scene by scene, shot by shot, and really tried to reconstruct most of it and couldn't show you the entire thing in this movie. It wouldn't surprise me if they did that, and it's just for a love and appreciation of the thing. And, like, I think this movie does have some interesting points about... succeeding in Hollywood versus trying to get your vision filled in some way. Right. I don't know how happy Johnny was, or his character's name is Johnny. I don't know how happy Tommy was with the actual movie that he made. I don't remember that part of The Disaster Artist. Do you remember if he was somewhat happy with it?
I don't think he ever really... I don't think Greg ever... truly knows how Tommy felt about it.
Yes, but I could be wrong. He did have a big premiere for it and everything. But there's this idea in Hollywood that basically you could make something and believe with all of your heart that the thing you've made is great, but it's actually a piece of shit. You've been slaving over this thing and trying to make something good, and it's actually been terrible. And Tommy Wiseau has basically done exactly that, but he's parlayed that into an actual success. Because he says now, it was a comedy, it was meant to be a comedy. We know he's lying through his teeth and all of that.
Yeah.
Because, they bring up some, like, theories about, like, who is he and why this story. And basically that, like, probably a lot of this stuff happened to him in some way, shape, or form. But he basically doesn't give a shit. All he wants is fame, attention, and basically just having all that money doesn't actually do that for him. Which I think the movie does an interesting job of trying to layer on some mystery about who he is and why he's doing all of this, and some of that is in the movie, even if it's not as good or as layered as the book tends to portray it as.
It's very much watered down to the point where it feels like a Spark Notes of the book, and I'm missing, like, the core. I'm missing the meaty stuff. I'm just getting the bare surface. I will say, I'm surprised by the huge critical reaction. It's one of the highest reviewed, the best reviewed movies of the year. It just got nominated today for a Golden Globe for Best Comedy Film. James Franco got nominated for Best Actor in the role of Tommy Wiseau. My thoughts on that are that I never thought the film really achieved anything above, averageness, except for one moment that I think crossed the threshold for me, and it really spoke to me, and that's the scene when they're at the premiere of the movie, and everybody's kind of snickering, and then and James Franco, he's like, Tommy Wiseau just starts like crying, and he's like so visibly upset. That was one of the few times, and I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, James Franco disappears into this role." I never got that impression. He did a good job, but I always saw James Franco. It's hard to hide James Franco, even with that amount of makeup.
It was always James Franco doing a pretty decent Tommy Wiseau impression.
Yeah. But that moment when he breaks down in the theater and he realizes everybody's laughing at his masterpiece, that's when the movie transcended and crossed the threshold for me. The rest of it, I felt like, was just average.
Well, here's the thing. Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood. This is innately a movie about Hollywood, a movie about trying to become an actor, trying to become famous in some way, aspiring to live out your dream of becoming famous, and they eat that shit up. So as soon as something is about that, and as soon as something does at least a halfway decent job of portraying that, they go fucking apeshit for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's what happened with La La Land last year, right? Another thing I wanted to bring up is that there are too many famous people in this movie.
Yeah, when Jason Mantzoukas and Hannibal Buress were the guys that he was buying the camera off of, I was just like, oh yeah, these are comedy guys.
And that's another problem I have, is that you can't get immersed in a movie when every 5 seconds you're being distracted and reminded that you're watching a movie. I get that The Room is a major phenomenon and that every comedian in Hollywood and around the world would fucking chomp at the bit at the opportunity to be part of this project. But James Franco, you gotta say no. You can't give every comedian in Hollywood a part in this movie, because every scene I'm being torn out of the movie, and I think, oh yeah, there's Hannibal Buress, there he is. Oh, there's Better Call Saul with a fucking Amish beard. Bryan Cranston made sense because he was playing himself, but there's too much. And here's what I think happened. The beginning of the movie, there's like 8 celebrities just talking about The Room. My theory is that when this project was announced, everybody started emailing James Franco or calling his agent. Oh, I got to be part of this project. I love The Room so much. And he said yes to everybody. But then he cast all the roles, and there were like 8 people left over. And he's like, oh, shit, I got to get them in the movie somewhere. How? Oh, I know. I'll make the first 2 minutes of the movie a documentary interviewing celebrities about The Room for no reason. And then that's why they're in there. Because I can't think of any other reason why they did that.
Yeah, I was really afraid by those first couple minutes, because I think a lot of the interview shit is pretty bad, pretty just lousy Hollywood people just talking about how great this thing is and really pointless. Like amping it up for no reason. I will say, like, I wish they would have just had one person introduce it in some way, because I know that Kristen Bell is a big fan of The Room, and she actually holds screenings of the movie. So like if she had been in a theater or something starting a screening, and they had just filmed her being like explaining why this movie is so important while you see all the people around it doing it, I think that would be fine. But the fact that it was like 5-10 different people, like fucking Kevin Smith, all these other comedy people, Adam Scott or whatever, it just gave me a lousy
J.J. Abrams pops up for a second there. Yeah, I'm giving that context for the people in the audience who don't know what The Room is would be helpful, but I think they did it in the dumbest way possible, in a way that just felt like he was shoving his friends into the movie because he couldn't think of another role to give them.
Yeah, I think it just became everybody wants a piece of it. Everybody likes this movie, so James Franco couldn't say no.
Another actor I want to talk about, and Sheepover made it very clear that she wanted me to voice her opinion for her, is that Dave Franco was terrible in the role of Greg Sestero. Do you feel the same way?
There were times when he was decent, but overall, yeah. I mean, he is very much just Dave Franco. This movie really shows how little range he kind of has. So, yeah.
And his beard looked fake in a lot of the shots.
Looked terrible.
Was it a real beard?
I have no fucking idea, man. I have no eye for hair or makeup shit to be able to tell you whether something's fake or not.
Yeah, I think that's my big problem with the movie is the word distraction. There were so many distractions constantly throughout the movie that made me, fall out of it. And then I was also disappointed that some very easily filmable, funny scenes were not included when they're trying to make a comedy film. Like, why not include the 9/11 scene? That's comedy gold.
It would be interesting to me how many deleted scenes there might be from this movie, because it's possible that they just said, okay, well, we got to cut some of this stuff. Let's just make it so that anything that's super important gets in. But yeah, you're right. Like something like the 9/11 scene, that kind of encapsulates Tommy in such a...
Yeah, because it shows how he's like a control freak, and he's so desperate to be like the all-American actor, superhero. Yeah. So of course that's how he would respond in the first anniversary of 9/11.
And even if they just had it as like a part of a montage of different things that Tommy is doing. Yeah. Yeah, it could be literally a minute of him saying, okay, everyone, we stop for a moment of silence. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's all the big points I wanted to make. If you have anything else to say.
I want to shout out to, I don't fucking know what his name is. He's the guy who plays PETA in the Hunger Games, played Denny, or the actor who plays Denny in this movie.
Yeah, it's
I
on
think
the
he was
tip of my
actually
tongue.
pretty decent. Is it Josh Hutcherson?
Yeah. Josh Hutcherson, that's right.
That's right.
And I thought Zac Efron was really funny, too, in the role of Chris Ard.
Yes, I did not... So, was that actually him in the scene where Chris Ard was super... aggressive?
Yeah, that was Zac Efron. Oh, and we forgot to mention our good
Kino
buddy
favorite,
Nathan Fielder. Yeah, from Nathan For You. He was in this movie.
Yes,
and he did a pretty good job.
By that. And that was one of the things where I was taken out of the movie because he's just so obviously Nathan Fielder.
Yeah, he's just himself.
Yeah.
It's brilliant casting because he looks and sounds like the guy.
Oh,
but
totally. Peter.
For us, it's pretty distracting.
Yeah. I think I should say I think I liked this movie more than you did. I can definitely see your points. I was not coming out of it as super positive as everyone else was, but I did have a good time since I don't think I'm as big of a fan of room commentary as you are, so a lot of the jokes tended to land easier, I guess, on me. And it was just, for me, a pleasant movie watching experience. I wasn't so caught up in it. I really wanted to see it, but I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be the best thing. It's going to be so huge. Right. I think this is a great time at the theater.
I've been shitting on it because I just wanted to get my feelings out, but I also really enjoyed the movie. I think it is going to be an Avengers Age of Ultron where I got my expectations too high and the first viewing was not perfect. But then the second time I watched Avengers Age of Ultron, I didn't have those high expectations. I knew what I was in for, and I actually could enjoy the film. Yeah. So I think The Disaster Artist on my second viewing, I'll enjoy it a lot more. And overall, yeah, it is a good movie with mostly good performances, too many distractions. I don't think it should be in the discussion of winning Oscars. I think that's insane. But yeah, if you're a fan of The Room, I guess, I'm not sure who the movie's for, but I guess check it out.
I would definitely say if you're a fan of The Room and you haven't been able to get your friends to watch The Room, have them watch that movie, and then hopefully from that movie they'll want to watch what the fuck this guy actually made and
I think it would make a great double feature.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and the thing about The Room is it's really tough to get through for those first 25 minutes.
Yeah, because
it's basically
three
just
sex scenes.
Exactly. It is shitty sex scene after shitty sex scene, one after another.
Yeah, it's funnier to talk about those scenes than to actually watch them. They're actually quite painful.
Well, and the other thing is, once you've watched the movie a couple times, those become incredibly hilarious. But the first time you're watching it, it's just like, what the fuck?
I think Greg Sestero in the book said he has to leave the room, and he has never watched those scenes in their entirety.
Oh man, that's so great.
You know what? Fuck the movie. My recommendation is read The Disaster Artist. It's one of my favorite books.
Listen to The Disaster Artist.
Or listen to it. I think it's free on Audible. You can get one. You can get one. If you type in the JonTron Audible code that he puts at the end of every episode, you can get one free audiobook. I'd say go get that one. Maybe we should get sponsored by Audible so I can actually make money off this recommendation.
That'd be incredible.
It's too late.
What would your offer code be? Suicide?
Yeah, probably suicide or autism or... Okay, E-Rich, before we go, we got to talk about something we brought up in the last episode.
All right.
I just announced today the first annual MUMKEY Awards, and you are nominated for Best Sidekick, a.k.a. Best Co-Host. And I hate to break it to you, E-Rich, but currently you're sitting in last place with 3% of the vote. So
I have been jobbing so far.
You've got a lot of ground to make up. But hey, at least 60 people voted for you over everybody else. So I mean, you got
true.
some fans. But if you wanna earn your victory, you better start lobbying hard.
All right, so let's see here. Who the fuck else is running for this? Jumpkey? What is Jumpkey? Jumpkey just a fucking stuffed animal. Mumkey's got sitting in a fucking corner. I don't even know if he's a real person at all. Fuck that shit. Asterios, whatever his name is, something Greek. He's a fucking boy fucker, I bet. All those Greeks are that way. Fuck him. Go eat some baklava. Fuck
I bet
off.
his economy's terrible.
Yeah. Go fucking, I don't know, steal money from a bank or some shit.
Jeez.
They have plenty
Erich
of
is
fucking
vicious.
Greek bank money there. Who the fuck else can I shit on?
There's Digibro.
Digibro? Fuck him. Isn't it short for Digibrony?
Yeah.
Either own up to that shit or fuck the fuck off. Are you a brony or not? Come clean, fucker.
He's
All right,
Schrodinger's
what else?
brony. He's both brony and not a brony.
Yeah. To brony or not to brony? That is the question.
I don't remember who else is on there.
Whoever they are.
Oh, Asperger is on there.
Fuck you, Asperger. Fuck you.
Wow.
I don't want to say to kill yourself, but
He probably would, so maybe keep your stupid comments in your pocket.
Asperger, don't kill yourself. Please, please, please don't. If you're standing by a ledge, get the fuck off of there. If you got a gun in your hand, throw it away. If you got a knife in your hand, I don't know, maybe do your nails or something. I don't fucking know.
He left my house this morning, and I haven't heard from him since, so maybe he's already dead, and this is just a terrible, macabre moment in monkey history.
Maybe he's hearing this live recording, and this is what pushed him over the edge.
Oh, no.
Do not do it, Asperger. You're a valued member of this community. Is he? Is he a valued member? I've never heard anything of this.
I mean, he's in, like, second place, so that's pretty valuable,
oh, shit.
I'd imagine.
All right. Well, I need the Is It Kino lovers out there to go and vote for Erich as number one sidekick. And if I am voted number one sidekick, I will reenact the Pickle Rick idiot guy. I will jump on top of a McDonald's fucking counter and scream that I want Szechuan sauce. That is a promise. An Erich
You're like
promise.
1,300 votes behind, but I think we can convince some people to change.
I'm only making this promise because I think it's almost impossible for me to win at this point. I have
gotta
no
make
fucking
it
idea
happen,
what's going to
folks.
happen.
I'm going to cheat
McDonald's.
the votes.
I'm going to figure
All
out
right,
how
folks.
I can get around this.
Yeah. For Is It Kino, I have been Mumkey Jones.
I'm Pickle Rick!